Okay, I'm live, folks. I'm sorry, it wasn't really a technical difficulty. Uh, I pushed the countdown clock without pushing the go live button. So here I am live. Uh, okay, I'm just going to do this. By the way, thank you for being here. If anybody's still here, then thank you. It does say that I have 5 people still here. Thank you for being so incredibly patient. Anyway, let me find my candidates again. I have to bring up the pages. Okay. I'll get Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick up first. She was the first of the candidates that I went over. Okay. She's in Florida District number 20. Okay, I am ready to go now. Okay, the first candidate I'm going to view here, or where I'm going to cover here, is Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick. I'm going to bring up her page for you now. She was running in Florida District 20. This was her first race. And here is something really outstanding. She was the winner. She raised $4,284,982 and spent $4,322,164, ended with only $2,778. She was running against a Republican named Drew Montez Clark. He raised $138,409 and spent $133,920, leaving him with $489. Where did Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick get $4,284,000? And why did she spend it all? This is a heavily Democratic district. Once she got, the nomination of the Democratic Party, she was a lock to win it. Why did she spend $4,322,000? Well, there was outside spending here. We see the outside spending, but the outside spending really doesn't reveal very much. There was this guy whose name was Omari Hardy, who got $247,712 in outside spending, supporting him by outside groups. 42,127 opposed, so his net was roughly 200,000. But that's not enough to beat somebody who's got $4 million hanging around. So there's this mystery, okay, of why she spent so much, since the candidates she was running against were comparatively weak. The outside spending for her was $65,990, but she was opposed by $88,517 in outside spending against her. In other words, that was trying to undermine her. You might say negative campaign ads. Somebody named Dale Holness got $142,060 in outside spending in support and nothing against. The Republican candidate got only $5,000 in outside spending supporting him. So this is all very mysterious as to what was going on here. But we see that she got 72.3% of the vote. And where did the money come from? Well, small individual contributions, only 28,000, less than 1% of what she raised. Almost 250,000, almost 6%, came from well-off individuals. One thing against her in terms of the litmus test. PAC contributions. She collected $250,081 from the PAC contributions, 0.2 against her. But here's the amazing thing. She spent $3,750,322, 87.52%. Candidate self-financing. She bought her seat with almost $4 million worth of spending. That was pretty amazing, right? The self-financing of her opponent, Drew Montez, was $8,462. That's all it was. He had PAC contributions of $5,000. His main thing was $87,880 from large individual contributions. His small individual contributions were $36,987. He raised more in small individual contributions than Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick did. So, of course, Sheila has already failed the litmus test, because you can't base your fundraising and your spending on your own money without violating the prohibition of getting funding from well-off people, because you're obviously a well-off person yourself and you're spending nearly $4 million yourself. So she clearly fails the litmus test by buying her own race. Still might be interesting to look at the PACs. She got $109,000 from business PACs, $80,000 from labor PACs, and $41,700 from ideological PACs. So that is Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick. Boy, when the Democrats recruited her, they really placed huge emphasis on getting a rich person to run and self-finance their campaign. I mean, that's the most amazing instance of members of the Progressive Caucus being that rich that they could do that. The sector totals make clear she was heavily supported by agribusiness. She was heavily supported by fire sector, lawyers and lobbyists. 80,000 from labor, 76,475 from ideology single issue. Okay, by the way, did I remember to share that? Yes, I did. Well, good for me. So I'm going to stop sharing that now. But we have one failure already in the litmus test. I now have Danny K. Davis, okay, from Illinois. And I want to bring in his page for you. Let me share the screen and get that in there. Illinois District 7 race. That was Danny K. Davis's race. Put this on a summary data. Danny K. Davis in a very safe district. He raised $675,000, spent $699,000, ended with cash on hand of $221,000 in rough terms. Nobody ran against him. Nobody. There was some outside spending in the primary on behalf of Keena Collins, who got $426,311 in outside spending supporting her. But Danny K. Davis got $560,721 in outside group spending supporting him. So even there, he outmatched his competition. But since this was a very safe district, Danny K. Davis spent only $698,552, almost $700,000 on his race. So question, Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick was running in a very safe district too in Florida. Why did she have to raise and spend $4.3 million and not leave herself with any cash on hand? She must be awfully rich to have spent so much. Of course, I emphasize again, she fails the litmus test because she's taking money from a well-off person, specifically herself. So, there that is, apart from the PAC money she took. Okay, so she fails the litmus test by a huge amount, of course. Let's look more at Danny K. Davis. Here's something very striking in this race. He got 100.0% of the vote in the general. So somebody contested him in the primary, Keena Collins. But in the general, he was uncontested. He didn't do it with small contributions. He got $28,292. He got contributions from well-off people of $247,000. He got PAC contributions of $403,348. So, of course, more than 50% of his contributions came from PACs, which disqualifies him. So there were 2 counts against him. And then, of course, there was a lot of super PAC money for him, too. So he fails the litmus test on the basis of 3 counts. Let's look at the PACs on 3 counts, I should say. Looking at the PACs, $312,140 in business PACs, $119,400 in labor PACs. So altogether, that's 312 and 120. That's already 430,000 roughly. And then 58,000 from ideological PACs means what is it, 488,000, and 2,300 from other PAC sources. That's almost 500,000 in PAC money. But the other tab has him raising only 403,348 from PAC contributions. So there's an inconsistency there in those figures by almost $100,000. Either way, though, he fails on large individual contributions, on PAC contributions, and on super PAC money. He fails on all those counts. So he fails the litmus test pretty good. I guess that's all we need to say about, Danny Kaye Davis. We have Dwight Evans. There is Dwight. Let me share him. He's from the 3rd District in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania District 3. That's another safe district. Dwight Evans raised $1,138,908. He spent $1,187,895. He ended with cash on hand of $133,616. That was, of course, from earlier races. There was no data on the following candidate, Christopher Hepner. He was probably a Republican candidate making some noise with respect to running. There was some outside spending in favor of Dwight Evans, only $5,539. There was some opposed to him, but that was only $245. So that was even less. Let's see how Dwight did in percentage of the vote. Answer, he got 95.1% of the vote. A very, very, it's a very, very Democratic district. So we got to ask the question, why did he spend so much money? He wasn't really getting any competition. So why did he spend so much of what he raised? Why didn't he put it aside for a future campaign? It's an interesting question. Same applies to Cherfilus-McCormick, of course. Sheila. His small individual contributions, Dwight Evans, only $41,049, 3.60% of his financing came from small donations. Large donations amounted to greater than $200 amounted to $346,579. So he fails on those grounds. Of course, he fails on PAC contributions as well. Took 752,252 in PAC contributions. In fact, that's where he raised most of his money, $752,252. So he's failing both on large individual contributions and on PAC contributions as well. Let's look at the outside spending from super PACs again. Well, not again. In his case, this is the first time. Well, he took some super PAC money, but it was negligible, $5,539, and was opposed by $244. So, but he fails the litmus test anyway, for reasons already mentioned. Might be interesting to take a look at the sectors that supported him. So, heavy contributions from agribusiness, communications, electronics, the fire sector, 250,750. The health sector, 98,690. Lawyers and lobbyists, 94,526. Transportation, 40,500. Labor, 164,880. And 90,666 came from ideological groups. And from other groups, 59,849. So I think that's of some interest, but strictly from the point of view of making the litmus test or failing the litmus test, he fails it because he was a real Pac-Man and because he took a lot of money from well-off people. His super PAC funding was hardly noticeable, of course. And so, 3 more congressional Progressive Caucus Democrats bite the dust. Okay, and here we are. How many other members of the CPC have we not covered? Well, I may discover another one before the next show, next Wednesday, but right now, according to my tabulation, the only ones we haven't covered are Dan Goldman and Sarah Jacobs. I seem to have a vague memory that maybe Kayla Mallard talked about those two, but I'll have to double check it. Okay, if he hasn't handled them, then of course it will be interesting for me to handle them. But as far as I know, those are the only 2 CPC members we have yet to cover. Okay, if any of you think there are others we have yet to cover, please let me know, and I will cover them. But so far, there's a clean sweep. Not one member of the Congressional Progressive Caucus has passed the litmus test. We will be going forward and checking, doing some sampling of the Republicans and doing some sampling of other Democrats. We won't be going through all the other Democrats, though, or all the Republicans. I don't know, maybe we'll sample maybe 10 from the Republicans and 10 from the other Democrats. But if the CPC members can't pass the litmus test, it's doubtful that any other members will be able to pass it. Now, what does this mean? well, increasingly I mention what it means, and I'll continue to mention what it means. It means that our Dump the Corruption movement will most likely have to oppose all of the major party Democrats and all of the major party Republicans, because all of them are going to be taking the big money. The big money seems to be institutionalized in their financial profiles. That means that our movement is saying every one of them, every one of the 435 Congresspeople have to be replaced. And they have to be replaced with someone else who is not taking any of the big money. It's very unlikely in 2024 we'll find any major party members that won't be taking big money. So that means if our movement is successful and people decide to really get the toxic money out of politics by getting the people who take it out of politics, that means there's going to be a clean sweep of 435 Congresspeople out of office, and no toxic money people elected to replace them. That is the prospect if people will join our movement and support it and act according to our recommendation. If we can spread this movement, we can replace every single House member, and we can replace 1/3 of the Senate in the 2024 election, and we can put the fear of God into the other senators who are not running in 2024. So, that is the truth of the matter. Now, a lot of you, of course, are going to say, we'll never get this campaign going. And maybe not. We certainly don't yet have a lot of people watching these streams. That's for sure. However, in principle, the success I'm talking about is there. And the logic of it is, no one is passing a litmus test. So everybody is bought to some degree by big money. And as we've talked about before quite a lot, the big money, when they're bought by the big money, they represent the big money. They don't represent their constituents. They don't represent the people. That's why they don't legislate for the people. That's why we can't get anything passed that is really good for us, like great climate legislation, like Medicare for all, like paid family leave, like student loan cancellation, like legislation denying jurisdiction to the Supreme Court over key legislation, like legislation packing the Supreme Court to end the power of these ridiculous right-wingers who have taken over the court, like getting child tax credits passed again for all the people who need those credits. I could go on with 100 other pieces of legislation that people really need that can't get through this Congress. There's also the question of the filibuster. Everything is blocked by the filibuster. A new Senate with unbought people in it will get rid of the filibuster the first day. There won't be any filibuster anymore. It's going to be majority rule in the Senate. That's why I'm calling for us to make this campaign successful, to do everything we can. You worried about the wars and America's involvement in the wars? You're tired of it, tired of the risks, tired of the stupidity, tired of all the bases all around the world, tired of our foreign policy? You need an entirely new Congress to get rid of that, because you need entirely new leaders who are on board, and entirely new Congress people and senators who are on board. That's why you have to apply the litmus test in voting. That's why we have to develop a campaign to get people to apply the litmus test. It's more important than any other issue, folks, for the 2024 campaign. There's nothing so important as electing people who have not been supported by big money during their runs for Congress, and so who are unbought by the big money. We've really got to make this a success. So, Robert Copeland says, Steve, I don't think any will pass the litmus test. Jim Bird says, yes, good for you, Joe. Kay Ryan says, I doubt any will, Steve. Only Kashama. Kashama would pass, but Kashama's not in the Congress. If Kashama decides to run for the Congress or run for the Senate, she would be a wonderful candidate because she would pass the litmus test. Jim Bird says, you should post somewhere a spreadsheet with all the various litmus test failures. Well, all I have to do is post all the members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, have their names on a spreadsheet, and say they failed the litmus test. Robert Copeland says there may be a few that pass the litmus test in local races, but not in Congress. Yes, Robert, that is true. And I was talking about the Congress. Steve Wolfbrand says Bernie owes us refunds. Steve Wolfbrand says Robert agrees. By the way, I've often had the feeling that Bernie owes us refunds. I mean, I put some money into that campaign, and I didn't put that money in the campaign to see him quit and shepherd for Biden. If I thought he was going to do that, I wouldn't have contributed any money to him. Steve Wolfbrand said 2 new city council members that could probably pass the test, litmus test, are Eunices Hernandez and Nithya Raman, as well as City Controller Kenneth Mejia here in Los Angeles. Yeah, you're right, Steve. They could pass the litmus test. Robert Copeland says, none of the 3 passed, the litmus test. No, none of the 3 passed the litmus test. Robert says, I think my city council member, Katie Valenzuela, could pass the litmus test. Absolutely. Absolutely. There are probably a lot of people out there who could pass the litmus test and so could win office. Steve Wolfbrand says the California Senate race should be interesting, but we have to be clear about that. the so-called progressive candidate, Katie Porter, running in the California Senate race, could not pass the litmus test. She failed it when we went over her in the House. She was successful in giving a lot of small dollar donations. She's magnificent at that. But she also takes the big money. So she would fail. Robert Copeland says, I want to see Nancy Pelosi funding. I don't know if we ever covered Nancy Pelosi with her funding. But I'll tell you what, as we go on to people outside the Progressive Caucus, we are certainly going to check on Nancy Pelosi's funding. By the way, Hakeem Jeffries, who is a member of the CPC, and Catherine Clark, who's a member of the CPC, both failed their litmus tests. Pelosi funding is insider trading, laugh out loud. That's true, but it's interesting that Pelosi did not do candidate self-financing for Congress. Robert Copeland says, I know my state senator failed the litmus test. I'll bet my congressman, Jennifer Wexton, would fail, the litmus test. I haven't tested her because she's not in the CPC. But we'll get to her. I promise. Rice says, just like Ohio, shake my head. Robert Copeland says, don't know about my assembly member, Kevin McCarty, if he passes or fails, the litmus test. Robert, you guys get a lot of rain? We got some rain, but a lot of the rain, I think, went south of Sacramento. Yeah, I think it's gone into the mountains, hasn't it, Robert? There's a lot of snow in the mountains. My Congressman Jimmy Gomez is a corporate guy. Dump that incumbent. Dump the corruption, as we say. We went over Jimmy Gomez, by the way. He's a CPC member, and he did fail the litmus test. Kay says, okay, guys, I'm out of here for tonight, but I love you all. And we love you too, Kay. Katie Valenzuela is almost as good as Kshama Sawant. Well, she doesn't have to be as good as Kshama Sawant. All she has to do is pass the litmus test. Steve Wolfbrand said, I don't like Katie Porter or the other candidates so far. Yeah, me neither. Me neither. They all fail a litmus test. Brandy Weaver says, hey, everyone. Hey, Brandy, you feeling better? Steve Wolfbrand says, good night, Kay. Steve Wolfbrand says, hey, Brandy. And Brandy says, Katie Porter is a Zionist now. I know, I've been watching her the last few days. She's a Zionist now, all right. Robert Copeland says, more like it's snowing in the mountains. Yeah, that's what I think, because Jimmy Sunderland has been getting a lot of snow in her area, which is, it's in the San Bernardino district, but it's in the mountains. And Brandy says, not really. And Ghostart says, Jimmy's buried in snow. Yeah, I think she and her family are. And I'm afraid there might be more snow coming their way very soon. So, folks, I'm sorry for the technical problem. That really wasn't a technical problem, but a bonehead play on my part, which delayed this stream by about certainly a half hour. But I think we've gone through it now. And it was a very interesting stream because Cherfilus-McCormick, I mean, almost $4 million of her own money. I mean, she must be made of money. A family must be made of money. And no way did she have to spend $4 million. She probably, solidly Democratic district, she probably could have spent $600,000 and saved herself $3.5 million. I mean, hell, she could have spent that 600,000 and she could have made a donation to our live streams. We sure could have used that 3.5 or $3.6 million she overspent by. We could have done a lot for the Dump the Corruption campaign with that money. Amazing. Yeah, Dwight Evans also overspent, but not by as much as um, Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick. Robert Copeland says, why did she spend so much money? I don't know. I just don't know. Okay, folks, that's it for tonight. I'll probably see you before Tuesday. I'm not sure what I'm going to cover on Tuesday, but it's going to be very important for empowering democracy. Okay, I could tell you that. I'm sure, though, that I'll be joining some of the Around the World with Brandy and D streams at some point over the weekend, okay, or on Monday. So I'll probably see you before Tuesday. Please share, like, and subscribe this stream. And please also go to Around the World with Brandy and D and give them a boost, as well. And also, please go to my patreon.com account if you're so inclined. And please go to my Buy Me a Coffee account if you're so inclined. The cupboard has been pretty bare on those accounts, and I need some help. Go Start says, Lana Dale says, good night. Good night, Lana. I hope you're doing okay with all the snows in your area. And Ghost Start says, Silicon Valley Bank CEO, CFO, CMO sold more than 4.4 million in stock right before the bank collapsed. SBF's Sam Bankman-Friedman told the world that FTX was fine right now before it imploded. Wells Fargo customer money is missing. Oh, wow. Brandy Weaver says we will have Jose on Sunday. I think that's Jose Vega, right, Brandy Weaver? And Ghost Dot says, buffering. Oops, really getting tired of my PC face orange frowning. Lana says, sick of it snow. Brandy says, Joe, you are welcome to join us Sunday if you are up to it. Thank you, Brandy. I was planning on it. Ghost Dot says, hi, Steve Wolfbrand, person turquoise waving at Brandy Weaver, person turquoise waving. Those are the emoticons that I can't see. So everybody, thank you for sticking with me. I really appreciate that. I hope you enjoyed this stream. And I'll be seeing you most probably before Tuesday, but certainly on Tuesday at 9 p.m. Good night, all.